Hello and welcome to ELL Plus with me, Elijah Kong.
And me, Vicky Double. In this week's programme, students marched through the streets of Westminster fearing an increase in tuition fees.
Hate crime and anti-Semitic graffiti in Hackney caused concern in the local community.
One of the most expensive and rare spices in the world, saffron, can now be found in the heart of Croydon.
The largest student demonstration for 6 years took place in London, organized by the National Union of Students. Around 10,000 students marched in protest at the government's recently introduced Higher Education and Research Bill. The bill proposed for higher education, which critics say would allow the university to raise their fees. Vicky Double reports.
What do we want? Free education! When do we want it? Now!
Thousands of students and staff from all over the country gathered in Westminster on Saturday to march under the banner United for Education. But why is a demonstration like this so important?
For me, this demo is really important because I have little brothers who want to come to uni in the next few years and they're not going to be able to if we raise the fees again. And this shouldn't just be like a one-off thing. This should be the beginning of like a really long campaign around making sure that we're standing up for future generations. It's not about us, it's about our FE students, it's about our brothers and our sisters, our family members who want to come back to uni.
Education is alright! Is alright! Is alright! Education is alright! Not a privilege!
We are not happy with the way this government is seeing education, both further and higher, and we want to see fundamental change being done.
Organised by the National Union for Students and the Universities College Union, this demonstration signifies the frustration among the current student body.
Now we have the Goldsmiths Union for Students here, as well as other societies, and at the moment we're all heading towards Millbank, where there will be a rally and various speakers talking about exactly what we're protesting here today.
We are marching today in defence of post-16 education, but also to fight for the future of our society. The struggle for an open, accessible and critical education system is crucial in determining what tomorrow will look like.
I feel like if you look back on history and it's like, well, what were these people doing when education was being slashed? It's like, well, they came out on the streets and they said that it was wrong, and I think that that's so important.
As the day drew to a close, protesters called for a free education system which is accessible for all.
We demand better, and we'll fight harder than ever to get it.
Vicky Double, ELL Plus. Last week, anti-Semitic graffiti was found on a Hackney street, causing concern amongst the local community. Our reporter Luke Radcliffe went to speak to Shomrim, a local anti-crime volunteer force, about hate crimes in Hackney.
This is Alcombe Road, in the heart of multicultural Hackney. Last week, anti-Semitic graffiti was discovered on vehicles here, just across the road from a Jewish girls' school. Earlier, we spoke to the president of Shomrim about how hate crimes such as this can affect the local community.
This is very dangerous because, as we saw with Hitler didn't start in 1939 or 1933. We look back and think, how did people behave in that way? And it happened from these little jokes, from these attitudes that had been percolating over a long period of time. I mean, we mustn't go over the top. We mustn't, say that every anti-Semitic joke, is going to lead to the most to the worst atrocities. But on the other hand, I think we mustn't take the opposite opinion and just trivialize it.
Shomrim describes itself as a proactive neighbourhood watch. They say they act as the eyes and ears of the police on Hackney's streets.
In recent times, we've seen an upshot in this type of abuse. And I think that we have to take very strong action to find the perpetrators of these matters. In this tragic incident in Alchem Road, there is a very beautiful silver lining.
In response to last week's events, members of the local Muslim community brought gifts as an act of solidarity to their Jewish neighbours.
And I think that's a very beautiful and a very uplifting reaction to what has happened.
Shomron was founded in 2008 in response to a worrying rise in anti-Semitic attacks. Now, however, Rabbi Gluck says that over 60% of their work involves the wider community. Luke Radcliffe, Hackney, ELL+.
In early November, Lewisham residents witnessed a brutal attack on 2 police officers. A large group of school children were involved in the altercation, which left one officer severely bruised. Jockey Coleman brings us more.
On November 9th, 30 school children were assaulted by 2 police officers on the streets of Lewisham. The assault was triggered when a police officer noticed a large knife on a student. In an attempt to search the student, the police officer was swarmed by other students and punched in the face. The second police officer stepped in to help her colleague and was punched in the jaw. Both police officers were taken to a South London hospital, and a 15-year-old was arrested at the scene.
We've got Jockey with us to tell us more about it. Jockey, this happened almost 3 weeks ago. Why haven't we heard about it before?
We haven't heard anything about it before because the police have just recently released a statement about it. We asked them, and they said we release appeals when it is operationally necessary to do so.
The police asked witnesses for photos or videos, but the police, do we know what response the police have gotten to their appeal?
Yes, they've had some responses to the appeals. They sent their first appeal 2 days ago, and it was a basic appeal just asking the public to come forward with information, footage from their mobile phones if they collected any. And today they renewed that same appeal stating that they have received some mobile footage, but they're still eager to ask the public for more footage if they have it to come forward.
Thank you, Jockey.
Thank you, Elijah.
The annual Foodies Festival was held in Shoreditch. Candice Brown, the Great British Bake Off winner, performed a live cooking show for the first time. The 3-day celebration set out to get everyone in the Christmas mood. Eugenia Delina has been finding out.
Chocolate fountains, ice cream made using liquid nitrogen, Chinese crispy duck pancakes. Just some of the delicacies on show at the Christmas Foodies Festival held at the Old Truman Brewery in Brick Lane. Star of the show was the Great British Bake Off winner Candice Brown. She grew up in the East End and was back on home turf doing her first professional cooking demo after giving up her old job as a PE teacher.
Like it makes your teeth go all funny. So while I do this really lovely job, normally if I'm making with my best friend, I get her to do it.
Other attractions included Indian street food and a stall selling cakes from Rice Bakery, a social enterprise set up to help homeless people from East London learn how to bake.
We need to think of new, interesting ways of how to fund work with vulnerable people. So social enterprises are great for that because there's obviously a business element and you can make money and it goes back into the training and helping of the vulnerable adults.
But when you have the chance to actually train people and help people and see progress in people, it's really rewarding and it's really stimulating, definitely.
All the profits are plowed back into teaching more homeless people to cook. Rice plan to take on 20 trainees each year. In August, their white chocolate and raspberry brownies won them a highly coveted Great Taste Award. After 3 days in Shoreditch, the entire Foodies Festival has moved on to its next venue in Edinburgh. Eugenia Delina, Shoreditch, ELL+.
Coming up on ELL+, we look at how the autumn statement's ban on letting agents' fees will impact students, and we'll visit a saffron farm in Croydon.
Stay with us.
The difficulties students face in meeting housing costs could be reduced in the future. Yesterday's autumn statement made significant changes to the fees estate agents charge. Earlier, I spoke to our reporter Melissa Fernando, who's at the campus of Goldsmiths College. She explains what the changes involve.
Yeah, hi Vicky. Well, the Chancellor Philip Hammond has announced in the autumn statement that there will be a ban on the letting agents' fees to come into effect as soon as possible. And he said by this, it will save about 4.3 million households hundreds of pounds.
What was the reason for the Chancellor to take such action?
Well, there was a petition that was started on change.org earlier this year, and that gained about 230,000 petitioners' signatures. It focuses on young individuals struggling to meet demanding charges and fees put forth by letting agents.
So this obviously will be welcomed by students who maybe in the past have had to pay extortionate fees.
Yes, and because according to the National Union of Students and Unipol, weekly rents for student accommodations has risen as much as 23% since 2009. And some students have been expected to pay up to £800 in fees. So absolutely any ban on fees is a good news for students. However, Vicky, there is a worry that the ban of fees could lead up to a rise in rents as agents try to recapture some of their lost money.
Journalism students from Goldsmiths College took home the top prizes from this year's Broadcast Journalism Training Council Awards. The ceremony took place at ITV's London studios, and the prizes were handed out by some of Britain's most distinguished journalists. Francesca Lucrelli reports.
The winner is Goldsmiths University.
For Goldsmiths TV journalism and radio MA students, it was a great night. TV journalism students won Best News Day.
It was fantastic. It's so good to see students getting recognition for some fantastic work. I was very proud of all the students from Goldsmiths, both in television and radio.
The BGTSC Awards celebrate the achievements of young journalists from universities all over the country. The event also gives them a chance to socialize and engage in discussions with top editors and media names. The winning team from Goldsmiths stressed the importance of teamwork.
It was all about the team. It was no one individual that scored the award for us. Everyone played their part.
Teamwork, and I think we also put the right person in the right place.
Yeah.
Because some people naturally have a tendency to be talented at something, at editing, at writing, at whatever. So we had the right person in the right place, which was good.
The awards marked the end of an intensive and productive academic year.
We won the Best TV News Day, and 3 of our students were also runners-up in the Best TV documentary. So it is an excellent result for Goldsmiths, and I think actually what it shows is that Goldsmiths really does punch above its weight in terms of the quality of the output that the students are producing and the progress that the students make over their time at Goldsmiths. So yeah, basically I'm just delighted.
The students don't graduate for another 3 weeks, but many are already working in newsrooms and production companies. Francesca Lucarelli, East London Lines.
In London, there's been an increase with the rise of vintage shops and fairs promoting and celebrating the styles of the past. Vintage markets are immensely popular with fashion lovers around the world. Every year, vintage fairs take place across universities around the UK, selling jewellery, accessories and clothes. Sabrina Boateng visited a vintage fair at Goldsmiths College.
University Vintage Fair is a unique business first opening its doors in 2013. It provides affordable vintage clothes to students. Goldsmiths College was the next destination for the latest tour.
We've got, so basically, like kind of oversized, baggy, like Tommy Hilfiger shirt, that kind of thing, or same as like a Lacoste version, and Ralph Lauren as well. So things like that. Basically, you see a lot of girls wearing these kind of well, as they are, kind of like dress, shirt dresses, basically, which is pretty cool. And lads just like wearing them as like just oversized shirts, basically, with like a pair of skinny jeans or something. You can also dress it up if you want to.
The fair offers retro fashion pieces at low prices, including accessories and homeware. I spoke to a student who was browsing about her personal views on vintage fashion.
Well, I really like subcultures from like the 80s and the 70s, so like Teddy Boys, obviously, and the skinheads and mods. I just love their style. So, you know, to shop vintage is the only way you're really going to replicate it.
Located on campus, the fair gives students the opportunity to glance through entire rails stocking many well-known brands.
Because I saw a vintage fair on Facebook and I'm really interested in vintage stuff.
As fashion trends continues to change in the industry, Vintage Fair seems to offer everyone modern and reworked quality fashion pieces, whatever the budget. Sabrina Boating, East London Lines.
And now we have Trina John Charles with us to bring us some local news in brief.
After the tram crash in Croydon, services are now back to normal. The scene of the accident has now been cleaned up and made ready for the Tramlink trains to once again serve Croydon commuters. 7 people lost their lives in the accident earlier this month. Philip Hammond has promised almost £1.5 billion for new affordable housing projects in his autumn statement. Croydon's MP Gavin Barwell welcomed the news. Prices of starter homes in the borough have gone up by almost 20% over the past year. That's it from me. Over to you, Elijah.
Thank you, Trina. Saffron, the most expensive spice in the world, in the heart of central Croydon, an urban saffron field is in bloom. Having initially started in one man's backyard, it has now grown into a community garden. Katie Thompson reports.
Centuries ago, the Romans introduced the saffron crocus to this country. The name Croydon actually means Crocus Valley. This borough was the saffron capital of Britain. Now, crocus shoots are once again transforming this urban space thanks to Ali McKinley.
When we first created the project, the idea was to give all the plants away to community gardens around Croydon and sort of trying to recreate the Crocus Valley. So this is the Crocus sativus. It's the only crocus that flowers that presents saffron. The 3 yellow bits are the stamen and the 3 red bits are the stigma, and the stigmas connect. And what we do is we just try and get the tweezers in there and pinch the 3 out. That's the saffron right there.
The reason why this spice is so expensive is because you need an awful lot of flowers to produce such a small amount of saffron. The harvesting process is extremely delicate. Tiny threads, known as stigmas, are hand-picked and then dried. It takes roughly 250,000 threads to produce half a kilo of saffron, roughly the size of a bag of sugar.
We'd love them to go out to schools and different community groups, and also the garden outside the Queen's Gardens is going to be redeveloped, and we kind of think it's important that we can have some visual display of Croydon's heritage, because for me this is Croydon's flower.
Every day, Ali adds up the saffron count, but he doesn't have council permission to sell it. So, unlike in Roman times, Croydon residents can now get the world's most expensive spice for free. Katie Thompson, Croydon, ELL+.
That's it for now. Thank you for joining us.
We will see you next week with more news from South and East London.